Hi guys, Dave here for B&H Guitar Lessons. This lesson is going to be on one of my favourite alternate picking exercises, the spider exercise. It's going to be great for getting the right hand really strong and really consistent, so grab your guitar, let's get into it. Okay, so for those of you who haven't looked at the spider exercise before, I teach it in a couple of different ways. Today we're going to be looking at one which focuses on the right hand, okay? So basically all we're looking to do with alternate picking is always alternate. That is slightly different to economy picking, or there's also hybrid picking, which is where you use your fingers and a pick. Alternate picking, we're trying to just get down this idea that we always pick down, then up, then down, then up. And it doesn't matter whether we're changing strings or not. Now, to me, alternate picking is kind of the basic thing that everybody needs to be able to do on the guitar. It doesn't matter if you're a person who doesn't like using a pick. If that's the case, you should be able to alternate pick with a thumb going down and a finger going up, or whatever kind of works for you. Some people use a thumb both ways, but you still need to be able to establish the same consistency as somebody with a pick. Because if you need to play like, I can remember doing an exercise at college which was like etc, etc, and it was all alternate picked and it was kind of in the style of Thin Lizzy. If you need to be able to play that, then you don't get to be able to turn up and go, oh, I don't use a pick. That's not how the music world works. If you don't use a pick, that's fine, but you probably still need to be able to do all the things that you can. And of course, if you don't use a pick, you can do those things, but it just requires a different level of work. So today we're focusing on people who do use a pick, because I like to use a pick. I feel much more comfortable with one. Little check-in with how you hold the pick. So my cue is to do a big thumbs up and this hand to hold the pointy bit of the pick in there and get it like that, and then grab it like that. Now, even though I use that cue to get into position, you'll see that I tend to hold it like that. Okay, so I'll show you my thumbs kind of like that. My fingers like that. And basically what we're trying to get is we're trying to get the pick to go basically at a 90-degree angle to your thumb. But that's hardly a hard and fast rule, because actually the angle that I tend to have it at, thinking about it, let me just do some playing. So it's basically 90 degrees. I think sometimes I've checked it and it kind of goes up a little bit, more like that sort of angle, so slightly up. But I digress. That sort of doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is if something you're doing with your technique is making your life harder. Okay, so that brings me on to my next point. I remember a good friend of mine at university, when he alternate picked, he did it by doing that with his thumb, okay, which was fine up to a point. But what we found when we worked together was that they'd get to a point where he would struggle to achieve like more technically demanding picking patterns. He just would struggle with that, and he would struggle because his movement was coming from here. Generally, the movement with alternate picking comes from the wrist. Okay, so we want to have kind of a static hand and a really smooth, fluid wrist. That being said, you know, more advanced techniques, there are loads of more advanced techniques, but right now we're looking at the very basic. Now, I want to also talk about something that most students of mine have real problems with, and that is finding a resting place on the guitar. Okay, this is so crucial, and I think a lot of it comes from just spending a lot of time with the guitar in your hands. But basically, when I do this exercise, the fleshy part of my thumb starts off on the pick guard. Okay, so look, if I do a little bit of it. So what was happening there was basically my thumb, the fleshy bit, the drumstick right there, that bit, was starting here, and I was kind of at this angle. You know, you can see my thumb's kind of pointing slightly down, and it just means that my hand is completely relaxed, and I can access that string. Okay, and then when I don't need that string anymore, when I need the next string, my hand just moves over. And what that means is that when I'm accessing the top E string, for example, my fleshy part of my thumb is actually resting on like the A, D, G string area, but it doesn't matter because I'm not playing those strings. And although you're probably thinking like, yeah, but what if you do want to play those strings? Well, by virtue of the fact that I'm playing them with my thumb, if I want to, I always end up moving out of my own way. So you're never in a position where you're kind of tripping over yourself, and the payoff is, to me, that it allows you to be in a relaxed, comfortable playing position. So that's just to check in with how this thing's going to work. All of that being said, number one, everybody is built slightly differently. So I've got students with long arms and like long wrists and long fingers and stuff like that, and you have to find your way with this. That's what I'm saying. And your way is going to be found by practicing. So I'm going to show you how this works, and then I'm going to, I haven't decided yet, I'll either put them in this video, or if they end up being super long, I'll link them off this video. But I will link a bunch of me playing along at various click speeds so that you can literally work through all the different click speeds, because that's what you need to do. And once you understand it, obviously you can do it with your own metronome. So let's look at it, okay? So the left hand, we want to make the left hand part as simple as possible, okay? Some of the variations of this exercise get the left hand working in more, a word for more difficult, let's go with difficult, more difficult ways, okay? But that's not what we're looking at right now. We want to just get the right hand really solid, okay? So we're going to get our right hand in our rested position. The left hand is going to go, we're going to go in this kind of classical position. So my wrist is quite low, my thumb is around the middle of the neck. Again, find where it's comfortable for you. The main cue is bent fingers and mark one fret with each finger. Okay, so I'm doing 1, 2, 3, and 4 there with each of my fingers. If you cannot do that, that is fine. Some people, when they start off, their hands are not strong and flexible enough to just do that. Okay, that is totally fine. So you can start off with just kind of keeping the fingers around the right areas and laying them down one at a time like this. Okay, those of you who can, I want you to get in position first, and then you're going to lift off. You see that as I start going, I mean, nobody in their right mind resets on each string like that and then moves out of the way. That would be a world gone mad. So. But you can see that as I get into the flow of it there, my fingers have got that liquidy, spidery appearance, which is what we're after. Now we're doing the very basic with the left hand, as I said. So all we're doing is 1, 2, I won't play and talk because it ruins it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. When we get to the top E string, you have a choice, okay? Because this is just an exercise that you can do kind of any way you want, you'll always get the benefit. Some people would get to the top and then just jump here and go always ascending. But to me, it makes sense there to just shuffle up, and then you're doing. So you're just traversing down the strings instead of going up. Okay, that is how I'm going to do it for the purposes of these exercises. It matters not. Okay, so We know what our left hand's doing. It's always doing 1, 2, 3, 4. We need to make sure our right hand is rested. That's basically it. Okay, so I'm going to now turn off the camera and start doing some at 60 BPM. Oh, so a quick overview about how you want to practice this. I know, because I've seen it for myself 1,000 times, I know that every single one of you is going to want to be like, let's just go. You want to go at that speed, right? I totally get that. You can do whatever you want to do. I'm going to set up a bunch at quarter note speeds. That'll be like this. Okay, and then I'll do some at eighth note speed, which is kind of splitting each beat in half. What I would really like you to do is be honest with yourself. If you cannot do this while making sure that your right hand is always going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, never down, down, or up, or whatever it might be, you have to be honest with yourself. If you cannot do it at whatever speed, drop it right back to the basic. Force yourself to do a few repetitions at that speed. My golden rule is if you can do something 3 times in a row, passably well or better than that, then you are allowed to up the speed. But if you can't, be honest with yourself and do it at the correct speed, because it's the only way you're going to drill that pattern into your hand. Okay, so I'm going to turn this video off now, and I will record some stuff with ClickTrack to help you work through this. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. Cheers.